Welcome back, Raider Nation and my champions. This is Eric, and in this video we're going to be reviewing our 33-27 overtime win against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm also going to go over the keys to the game that I went through in the game preview and be handing out grades for the offense and defense. But before we get to that, I want to have a follow-up to our video yesterday as far as our recent injuries. Now, I did talk about Denzel Good being out for the season. We just got word that Earl McCoy will also be out for the season. Yannick Ngakoue is suffering a hamstring injury. Nothing firm yet, but it may look like he will miss week 2 against Pittsburgh. Same goes for Marcus Mariota with that re-aggravation of his quad. So let's get to the game review. Now, just like our preview video, we're going to start on the defensive side, and I'd be remiss without starting with the best player on defense in that game. And of course, that was Max Crosby. He ended up with 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 6 total tackles in the game, and a well-deserved AFC Defensive Player of the Week award for week 1. And I think he probably would have won NFL Defensive Player of the Week if it wasn't for Chandler Jones of Arizona getting 5 sacks. Absolutely harassed Lamar Jackson, an absolute key to winning this game. And this goes back to my first key as far as containing Lamar Jackson himself. Now, he did end up 19 of 30 with 235 passing yards, 1 touchdown, but he did get 12 carries for 86 yards. Now, I would say overall, I would give that as a B+ grade, considering we pretty much contained him. And the big key stat of this is the third down conversions. The Ravens were only 3 of 12 on third down. They were 1 of 2 on fourth down, including a big play by KJ Wright, the veteran. I think what they did mainly was, what I saw was that they had Crosby obviously destroying Villanueva. He was no help at all to them. And then Ngakoue, when he was in as well, very fast. And then when he wasn't in, Nassib came in and did a phenomenal job, including the play in overtime to get that second fumble from Jackson where he stunned it on this side, came around. Crosby was getting blocked by Villanueva. Nobody touched Nassib coming in here. And then Tyson Williams kind of did like an Olay. Absolute terrible job of even trying to pick up the blitz here, and then hit Jackson, created the fumble, and then Darius Philon came in, helped clean it up. Now again, with McCoy out as well, we had help from Quentin Jefferson and Darius Philon, and I think both those guys did a good job. And of course, you got to hand it to a couple newcomers here, Denzel Perryman and KJ Wright. Basically been here for about a cup of coffee, but Gus Bradley guys, so they kind of knew the defense and they knew how to play Lamar Jackson. I think the game plan was overall very well for that. So I think overall, when I said just to contain him, I think they did an overall great job of that. Now, as far as Mark Andrews goes, their tight end, I'm giving this one an A+ because he only had 3 catches for 20 yards, pretty much contained. And one of those, obviously, I think it was a fumble where Andrews caught the ball. I thought he did a little stutter step and then kind of turned to move up when Abrams stripped it away from him. They called the incomplete pass, but still very good in containing that weapon that they had overall. And as far as the overall grade for the defense, I'm going to give it an A-. I think overall they did great. Basically, this offense is kind of unorthodox. It's mainly around Lamar Jackson doing Sandlot, and they contained that for the most part. Of course, he had a couple of pretty good running plays, one in the fourth quarter to get them down to get that quote-unquote go-ahead field goal, but we did come back and tie it. And we'll talk about that on the offensive side. But overall, I think the defense did great. I think Abram did great as well. He had 10 total tackles. He played hard, he hit hard, but it was smart. He didn't get any penalties. Like I said, same thing with Denzel Perryman. Mary got his feet wet. As far as the secondary, I mean, they did their job overall. They only had 235 passing yards, but Baltimore's, that's not their forte. So I think we'll see more of how they really are next week against Pittsburgh. But overall, I think the game plan worked. Kudos to Gus Bradley on that. And as far as next week goes, I will be doing a preview, but I think Big Ben's got to be peeing his pants at this point because I don't think that Steelers offensive line is going to be able to handle these front 4. And yes, just like I did during the game preview, I'm sounding the air raid alarm, and it came to fruition. I thought we were going to have trouble running the ball, especially between the tackles, and that was the case. We only had 82 total rushing yards. Derek Carr ended up with 435 passing yards. Granted, we did go to overtime, so a little bit more there, but still, even upwards of high 300 yards was huge, especially for this offense. And we'll talk about this as far as the grading goes. I'm going to kind of take it with a grain of salt. It kind of looked like a Jekyll and Hyde, the first half versus the second half, and my grades are going to kind of reflect that as we go through here. Now, the first key I want to talk about, obviously, is Darren Waller, getting him involved. And I gave this a B+, and I didn't give this an A. I know he had 10 catches for 105 and a touchdown, but I did give this an A because of the tunnel vision for him by Derek Carr in the first half. Mainly the first quarter and a half was nothing but Waller. A lot of people say, well, the other guys weren't getting open, blah, blah, blah. The offense did not look in sync. We'll talk about that with the overall grade, but still, great job, especially in the second half. The next one I want to talk about is Bryan Edwards. I'm giving this one a C. Now, granted, I know he ended up with 4 catches for 81 yards and that almost touchdown in overtime. He was stopped at like the half-yard line or whatever. They said his knee was down. But again, not to be seen. Same with Ruggs in the first half, the first couple quarters. Edwards didn't get a catch till the fourth quarter anyway, so which leads me to my overall grade, and that's a B for this offense. And I would have said about a D in the first half, even though they were only down 14-10 at the half. Things didn't really start clicking until about midway through the second quarter. Very, very rusty, and it showed that because the first team offense never took a snap in the preseason. I think that's what happened. It's almost like we used that first quarter and a half to kind of get the rust off, get back into sync, and especially in the second half. And I could say that includes John Gruden. I thought the play calling was suspect. I thought the personnel at times were suspect. They didn't really get Kenyon Drake involved until the second half. For the most part, he was in there a little bit in the first half, but not as much as he needed to be, especially with Josh Jacobs nursing injury and illness. Now, they did get Drake more involved in the passing game. That's his bread and butter. I enjoyed that. But overall, we need to do a better job as far as the offense. I didn't like how it took us time to get ready, kind of warm up like an old car. No pun intended there. As far as the offensive line, they did an admirable job. Colton Miller was absolutely solid. John Simpson played a pretty decent game, though the running game kind of suffered. Andre James had his troubles. Now, granted, the Ravens front is no joke, but he made some bonehead plays. He had that holding penalty. He did that weird hike of the ball when Carr wasn't ready. And then that one play where Patrick Queen kind of juked him. He thought he was going to go out, and he came in, totally missed that play, ended up costing him a sack. Denzel Good got hurt, and we talked about that. His replacement came in. Kind of hit and miss, but, it's a backup. I can't ask too much there, just jumping into a game like that. Alex Leatherwood was kind of hit or miss. Got absolutely owned in one play by Justin Houston, but overall pretty good for his first time out as a rookie, and especially against a defense like this. Now, granted, I'm not going to say the Ravens look the same. They did get 3 sacks, but they did not look the same without Marcus Peters out there and without Judon and Yannick Ngakoue, who they lost in free agency, which kind of gives me a little concern for next week. And we have to face this guy here, TJ Watt, an MVP type candidate, pass rusher. And this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is good, and they're even better I think they're even better than the Ravens at rushing the quarterback. So Gruden and company is really going to have to kind of figure out what they're going to be doing in week 2. And I'm going to talk about that in the preview as well later on in the week, but we'll leave that to the next video. Now, there's one other thing I want to mention, and we did it last week. We're going to be doing it again this week. We're going to be going live this Sunday at halftime of the Raiders-Steelers game. I'm going to be giving you my halftime report, the good, the bad, the ugly, and go over the keys to the game, which will be coming up in my week 2 preview video, and see how we're doing. I'm also going to interact with you and get your opinions and have a discussion on how you think the Raiders are doing during the game. We had a lot of fun last week, and I encourage you to come out and join us. Be sure to hit your subscriber bell notification to be notified of the upcoming live stream. This video was brought to you by Chucky's Protein Powder, your likes and subscribes. If you have any comments, put them in the section below. I read every comment, and if I've had enough tequila, I'll probably respond to your comments as well. If you want to catch up to our previous videos or our playlists, they're right here. Thank you for watching and supporting this channel, and as always, go Raiders.